America's just been attacked.
Go on shining.
But this is the story of how it began.
End of the world.
Hey everyone, I'm Martin.
And I'm Shelley.
And we wanted to talk a little bit about the movie Homestead. We went and seen it a couple of nights ago, and a lot of people have been kind of weighing in on what they thought of the movie, and we're going to do the same. And so if you could, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. We're going to get right into this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has been in the filming process for a long time. I remember probably more than a year ago when it came across social media as, you know, they were looking for investors to invest in the making of this movie. And it sounded like a fascinating story then. And I guess it's based on a book series. I don't even know for sure what the book series is called, but it would be, if you know what it was, put it down in the comments down below, and I may have to get the book series. So what did you think overall? We'll get into some of the details, but what did you think overall as far as your impression of that movie, the movie Homestead?
I really liked it overall. The things that kind of was different about it that I wasn't expecting, it was the way the ending went.
Yeah, and we'll kind of cover a little bit of that at the end.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're going to go through and talk a little bit about it, but if you wait till the end, you'll have sort of our whole nutshell version of what we think. But if you're not waiting till the end, okay, then I'm going to tell you right now that that we liked it and we recommend it. There were some things about it that were maybe just a little off base, but I guess everybody can shoot holes in something if they wanted to bad enough. But it wasn't enough to make me not like it. I really did like the movie. I enjoyed the whole thing. So it's based on, if you haven't seen it already, it's based on a terrorist event, which was a nuclear weapon detonated in Los Angeles, and the subsequent blackout that it caused across the whole nation, as far as the grid falling apart and going down, and all of the things that sort of ensue from that. And the movie started out really good. I mean, it put you kind of on the edge of the seat to start with. Wouldn't you say, whenever?
Yeah, because you didn't know what was going to happen. And these people were loading up their car, going to go to this particular place.
Yeah, it was called the Homestead. It was like a place where her brother had built a... kind
of like a refuge.
Yeah, refuge.
Sort of.
Yeah. And you know, as the movie progressed, there, you know, it showed all of the things that you would expect from a sort of a calamity, a national or a nationwide loss of services. And so there were, you know, the marauding gangs that were, you know, trying to, you know, get supplies by raiding homes.
They were at the grocery store and they were raiding the grocery store.
Yeah, and all of that, which are all things that you would probably expect in a situation like that. And so, I mean, all of that was very realistic. The property that they escaped to was owned by a family that had built up a homestead, they called it, which was specifically to survive an event like this. And so they had food, they did gardening, they raised animals, all that kind of a thing. Just like all of the prepping stories or movies you would expect. They were just doing all of that kind of a thing. And I think the biggest complaint that I heard from people was it wasn't what they expected. And I'm sure that a lot of people went into it thinking that it was going to be a survival prepping kind of meltdown of society and order. And if that's what you're expecting, I mean, the story was based on that type of an event, but really the focus of the story was much less that. It was on something that we think of a lot. I mean, we do kind of minor prepping around our place. I mean, we store up food and we have ways of generating energy and things like that down here in case of some kind of an event. But for the most part, the question that a lot of us ask ourselves, especially, we're people of faith, and, we understand that, we're taught to love our neighbors. And at the same time, when you're preparing for if something could go wrong, you may end up having a lot of people showing up at your place because you've prepared and they haven't. And so the question that we all kind of face is, what do you do when they're there? Do you defend or do you help out? And where's the line that's drawn in the sand for that?
We need a world where people help strangers, not shoot at them.
And I think that's what this movie was meant to bring out more than anything else, is at what level does your humanity break down? And you kind of cross that line.
I think too that the way they did the acting in it and the circumstances that came across. I mean, the lady that was living there, she had a heart of gold, and she just wanted to help them, and she didn't like to see them. They were at the gate, and she would go down and bring him food and stuff, and then he would say, well, we don't have enough food for everybody, and so during that movie, there was also a raid that came, and so
don't throw away too many of the.
Okay, well then, okay.
So they basically were trying to figure out how to answer that question. I mean, the movie asked the question, "What are you going to do, and where do you draw the line?" And between helping people and isolating yourself and defending yourselves from those people. And I mean, they covered that from 2 or 3 different angles, and some kind of traumatic events. They had to get through some pretty traumatic events in the process. And some of the things that I thought were kind of funny, which would be true, is they took a poke at electric vehicles and how unreliable that would be. They took a pretty hard poke at FEMA. It's like, oh, FEMA's going to come and rescue us, and so yeah, well, that could happen. Yeah, and so there was a lot of that. I think for the most part is very realistic. Now, our son-in-law, he said after he watched it, and he's kind of more mentality of a kind of a hardcore prepper. I mean, when he goes in, it's like what he considers, what do you need to do to survive? And so, I mean, his first reaction was, these people wouldn't last five days.
Yeah.
And that's probably true. But
and I think too, the way the movie is, the city wasn't too far away from this place where they built
they were pretty close to a populated area.
Yeah. So, and then we know it was a movie.
Yeah. So anyway, I think our takeaway was that don't expect it to be a hardcore survivalist film. It's set in that kind of a arena, but the focus is more on the struggle that they have with, basically their humanity and whether or not they're going to choose to fight or help people. And that's a question they didn't answer in that movie. I mean, they came up with a version of that towards the end of the movie, but they really didn't answer that question. That's something that people have to, I think, deal with on their own, and it's a very profound kind of a question. If you are in the prepping mode, whether it's a little or a lot, it's a question that we all ask ourselves, and what are we prepared to do or not do in that kind of a environment. So anyway, the movie was, I think the movie was very well done, very really well good. Acted, very well cast, and we would recommend seeing it. Yeah. If nothing else, to give you an idea of things that you might have to think about that maybe you hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, and I too think that there are a lot of people that they might not even have started prepping any way, shape, or form. And I say, if you can do something for yourself to get ready a little bit, not that anything is going to happen, okay? I'm not saying that, but if you could just store up a few things it would help your circumstances, which would not make other people feel like they would have to give to you when your need is there.
Yeah, and just think of the recent Hurricane Helene thing and how it
Yeah.
affected the mountain areas of North Carolina and Tennessee and around that region there. I mean, they all of a sudden went from one day being fairly secure to the next day being completely homeless and no food and no shelter and no anything. And are still, 2 months later, are still struggling. A lot of them are still struggling out there. So, and she brought up a good idea is that, if you watch this and you start thinking in terms of being a little bit more prepared, again, whether that's a little or whether that's a lot, you have to understand that, there was the one family in there that was, their meal consists of, for the whole family of 5, I guess it was, sharing a package of ramen noodles and each having a half of a dill pickle because that's all they had left.
I don't think they were very prepared.
They weren't. And so they became, in a way, a burden to other people. And I guess that's a good point that you have to think about is that, if any kind of an event would cause there to be hardship that you would need to be prepared for, you're going to wind up into one of two categories. Probably you're either going to be fairly well prepared to deal with it for however long you decide is relevant, or you're going to become a burden to other people because if you haven't gone to any trouble to store up at least a little bit of stuff, a couple of weeks worth or maybe a couple of months worth of some kind of provisions to get your way through that, then all of a sudden you're out looking with all of the other people that are out looking, and it becomes an obligation or a burden for someone else to try to help you and take care of you. So if you can be prepared, say, for 2 weeks or even a month or even a couple of months, then you automatically remove yourself from being a burden to other people and being in a situation. And then you have to decide, how are you going to deal with all of the people that come to you?
Yeah.
And to me, that was the high point of the movie. Is it asked that question?
Yes, it did.
I believe it did not answer that question. It gave one scenario that fit the storyline for the movie
For that place.
Yeah, for that
what they were
place.
gonna
But it's each of us are going to have to kind of deal with that on our own terms and figure out how we're gonna get by with that. And
on a lighter note, I do have to say this because I thought it was kind of funny. When they drove over, the reason why they went to the grocery store is because she wanted to get some medicine in case her daughter had an ear infection. So she went in there, and during that time, there was people fighting outside with their shopping carts, and I saw somebody, give me that toilet paper.
they took a poke at the whole toilet paper thing too.
Yeah, that was so funny.
And so it wasn't necessarily a lighthearted thing. It was sort of a serious moment. But they addressed a lot of those things that we see when things aren't going that terribly bad.
And we know we've been through that.
Yeah,
with the toilet paper.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, we didn't get involved in that craze, but we ran like 4 resort properties at the same time, and we needed toilet paper.
We needed
a lot more than
paper.
just for ourselves.
Yeah.
So we were out trying to get
crazy.
some, and it was everybody was just buying it up. There wasn't any there.
Yeah.
So anyway, we recommend the movie. I think it was a good movie. If it makes it out onto DVD or something like that, it'll probably become part of my collection because it was good.
I like it.
I believe the Angel Studios are a worthy business or organization to support, so we're going to support them.
Yes.
And if I understand correctly, a lot of people complained about, the end of the story kind of left you hanging in the movie. But it sounds like they are developing a series that takes you from the end of the movie on into the future or so, which will be streaming on television or on their network. Yeah. So anyway, we give it a thumbs up.
Yes.
To me, it was an entertaining movie. Made you stop and think, not only of the prepping thing, but it made you stop and think, how are you going to deal with, people that may confront you when they get hungry enough.
I think with me, it makes me stop and think, where's my faith level?
Yeah.
because I have to believe that the Lord is going to take care of me no matter what happens. You know, I mean, I told Martin, I mean, I was just kidding around, but seriously thinking if it all came down to it. I watched this program one time, and these people were eating these moths. And they were like, I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know.
Maybe I just won't survive.
I don't know if I could do that or not. But, however, I have a ton of them kind of moths around here.
Well, get busy then. What are you waiting for?
No.
There's too many moths.
Should I can them up?
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching.
right.
Go see the movie. See what you think of it for yourselves. Share the information with others, and just if you have thoughts or comments on how you feel about the whole confrontation of what would you do if you weren't prepared and you were out looking for help, or if you were prepared and others were coming around, what would you do? It's give some ideas down in the comments below.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Remember,
right.
subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, next time.
If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and a share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell. See you next time.